All right, sorry for that little delay. Okay, guys, so this is going to be our parent-athlete meeting for 2020 and 2021. Like I said earlier in the meeting, there are going to be lots of changes. There's so much going on, so we will keep everyone notified when we get notifications of changes. So we're going to be covering lots of topics tonight. Parent involvement, expectations and rules. We'll go over the athletic packets a little bit just to show you all what's in them and what you need to fill out in order for your child to be in sport. We'll talk about the code of conduct. We'll talk about how you can appeal a violation or penalty, suspensions, academic eligibility, attendance, travel, injuries, equipment, dual sports, changing sports, awards, fees, COVID updates, and then a nice thank you to everyone for coming. Okay, so first of all, in order to have a successful season, there are three really important players. We've got the athletic player themselves, the student athlete, the coach, and the parent. The parent is a huge part of this, so we have lots of things that we need parents to do in order to make this be a successful season for all of your athletes. First of all, how can you support? Be positive. It's super important that you model the behavior that you want your child to emulate. This includes at home and in the stands. Try not to be a coach. Love them no matter what. Remind yourself why your kids compete in sports. It has nothing to do with results. Be happy, have fun at competitions. If you are happy and you are having fun, your children most likely will too. Don't define success and failure in terms of winning and losing. Stress the process, not the outcome. Whose goal is it? Yours or theirs? Avoid comparison to other student athletes and teach your child to have a healthy expectation and perspective about their sport. Some rules for parents. Grades are number one. Have no expectations. Have an objective view. Observe the school district chain of command for communication. This is really important. We had some problems with this a little bit last year. Please talk to the coach first, then talk to the AD, then the principal, then the district administrator, and finally a school board member. Follow this chain of command for a smooth problem-solving situation. If there is a concern, observe this 24-hour cooling-off period before addressing the coach. Treat the coach as an ally, not an adversary. Give your students space and empower your student to make decisions and address concerns with their coach. Pay attention to injuries. Always support the team. Make sure you have filled out and turned in all of the necessary forms and enjoy the ride. So far, so good? Any questions? All right, moving on. Athletic packet. If you want to pick one up yet or print one off, don't worry. There are lots of them available in the vestibule. Just click right into the elementary school. There's a table set out with all the different packets. You can also find them on the website. You click on Our Schools at the top, and then Athletic and Activities tab is on the left-hand side, and you'll find them on that page. You will need to fill out and turn in the following forms before your child can participate in any sport. You do need a physical. There was a little bit of a rumor going around that physicals were being waived this year. They're not being waived. You still have to get one. You just would have a little bit of extra time if you were not able to get in to see your doctor. If you had a physical last year, then you need the alternate year card. Concussion form is super important. Not practice without having the concussion form filled out, both sides of it, and turned in to your coach. Emergency contact information, the WIAA eligibility form. This is high school students only. The impact testing permission form. This is for the impact testing to be done. That would be in case your child had a concussion or a head injury. We would, the impact testing is for like baseline testing. The student handbooks, co-curricular code of conduct, and we'll be going over a lot of that tonight. The athletic fee form, and then the student accident insurance information. This is voluntary. Okay, we're going to start with the code of conduct. First of all, athletes sign a code of conduct. They are reminded that they represent the school both at athletic contests and everywhere else. All participants and athletes are expected to follow all the school rules to display high standards of behavior, including good sportsmanship, respect for others, and the use of appropriate language and dress at all times. Participants, athletes, must refrain from any conduct at any time that would reflect unsatisfactorily on him or her or the school. All right, some of the violations would be crime, anything dealing with, not limited to, sexual behavior, vandalism, property damage, theft, possession of illegal substances. This includes intoxicants, this includes steroids, this includes prescribed medications that are used in a manner other than what they are prescribed for. It includes tobacco products, e-cigarettes, anything that has to do with vaping, the possession of weapons or look-alike weapons, hosting or sponsoring or organizing a party or gathering at which alcohol or drugs are being used, consumed, or offered. If you are in the presence of others who are illegally possessing or using alcohol or controlled substances, it is the expectation of this code that a student will leave the premises the moment they become aware of others illegally possessing and or using alcohol or controlled substances, even if the student is not consuming or using the substances themselves. If a student records more than 10 tardies in a semester, the students shall serve a code of conduct violation. If a student accumulates 5 or more referrals in a semester, the student shall serve a code of conduct violation. Code of conduct violations may be presented in writing to the administration by any staff member, liaison officer, or a credible person who has knowledge of a possible infraction. A confidential complaint will be investigated to the extent possible. Violations of the school rules conduct shall also be a violation of the extracurricular code, and the participant or athlete is to be disciplined accordingly as established by the principal, AD, or advisor. Okay, so penalties for code violations. The first offense is a suspension from 25% of the contests in the present season or a minimum of 2 contests. If you are not currently in a sport, then it will be carried over until the next sport. Second offense, 50% or a minimum of 5 contests. Third and subsequent offenses would be the suspension from all activities for 1 calendar year. The rules and violations apply to all middle school and high school athletes. Code of conduct violations stay with the incoming freshman from middle school until the entirety of the suspension is fulfilled. Once a middle school infraction is fulfilled, future infractions as a high school student will be treated as a first offense. Any student who in good faith refer themselves or parents who refer their child for violation of the co-curricular code may have their penalty reduced by the building administrator or the AD by 1 event or contest. There is an appeal procedure. You may appeal disciplinary action. You have 10 calendar days to submit this in writing. The appeal board will consist of the principal, myself, 2 faculty members who are not directly involved with the student, the athlete's activities, and then all decisions by the appeal board are considered final. The suspension is served if the student athlete sits out the required amount during a season. It is served if the student athlete sits out a part of the suspension during one season and the required percentage in the next season. This applies only if the suspension will not be fulfilled during the first season. It will need to be repeated if a student who is on suspension for part of the season does not complete the season in that activity. Students who join a sport after the first contest and are fulfilling a suspension must have 100% attendance and complete the sport in order for the suspension to be satisfied. WIAA requires that suspensions not fulfilled because a sports season is canceled, which is what happened to us in the spring due to COVID, must be carried over to the next sport of that athlete and will be fulfilled at that time. Academic eligibility. These requirements will begin with the initial enrollment in the first co-curricular activity. Athletes must meet all district and DPI requirements defining a full-time student and have passed or be passing all their classes. Athletes who earn an F at the conclusion of a midterm will be allowed 5 school days from the date of notification to the student to get the grade to passing. So once the student is notified by me, they'll have 5 days to get that up. If the athlete is unable to raise the grade to passing in those 5 days, then they'll have to sit for 25% of the total games or appearances of that sport's full season. If the suspension is not completed in the current sport activity, the remainder of the suspension will be carried over into the next athletic sport or activity in that grade period. The athlete will be placed on academic probation until the next quarter grades are posted or the day the suspension ends and grades are all passing. The athlete will not be allowed to leave school early for any event in that sport until all grades are passing. Academic eligibility, this is now for the end of the quarter. If the athlete receives 1 F, it would be a 25% suspension of total games. Remember, it will carry over into the next sport if it's not completed in a single season. Okay, so that's for 1 F. If they have 2 Fs, it is a 50% ineligibility, so they'll have to sit out for 50%. And again, it would be carried over to the next sport or season if it was not fulfilled in that sport. If there are 3 or more Fs at the conclusion of a 9-week grading period, they'll be ineligible to participate in 100% of the total games or appearances of that sport for the entire 9-week period. They're still permitted to practice. Remainder of the suspension will carry over to the next sport season again if it's not completed in that season. Athletes will be placed on academic probation until the next quarter grades are released and all classes are passing. The athlete will not be allowed to leave school before the end of the day for any event in that sport until all grades are passing. If an athlete is enrolled in state-approved exceptional educational needs programs and they receive not the usual grades for such courses, they may be eligible if they are making satisfactory progress with their IEP. Athletes who attend summer school for remediation must receive a passing grade to be eligible for any failure, infraction, and penalty. See the rules stated above as they apply. Athletes who received an incomplete at the end of last quarter for when we were doing homeschooling, online schooling, you are encouraged, if you have an incomplete, to sign up for summer school and get those grades to passing, not passing. A student must be in full attendance the full school day to participate in any co-curricular events. That means if you wake up in the morning and say you have a headache and you think, oh, I'm not going to go to school for the first couple of hours, that means you have to have a doctor's note in order to be able to participate that day. Okay, so this is also going to include virtual attendance if it comes to that this fall. If a student is truant from an assigned class period or is displaying a pattern of habitual tardiness to a specific class, he or she will be referred to the principal and will not be allowed to compete until the issue is resolved. Students cannot compete, perform, attend, or practice on days of an out-of-school suspension. All athletes are expected to attend all practices and events unless excused by their coach, advisor, principal, or AD. Being late for practice, missing practice, and disrespect shall be dealt with at the coach, advisor, principal, or AD's discretion. All athletes and or parents or guardians are asked to give each coach advisor a 24-hour courtesy time limit prior to discussing an issue or concern following an event. Okay, travel. Students are asked to ride the bus, go take the bus if at all possible. If they are, if the parent or guardian is insisting on transporting their own student athlete home from an event, they must complete the athletic travel release form, or they must sign the student athlete out with the coach at the time of the game. So that is something you need to make sure you talk to your coach about too during the sport. The school has purchased a group insurance policy, but it will not cover any interscholastic sports injuries. If a parent would like to purchase a voluntary interscholastic athletic insurance plan, it is available at the school offices upon request. All injuries need to be reported immediately to the coach, and this has to be reported to the office. WIAA and the School District of Manawa require a medical release from a severe injury. Head injuries are considered severe, and if they are severe enough to have received medical treatment, you have to have a medical release from a medical physician before the athlete may return to any practice or competition. Please refer to the WIAA for further requirements for head injuries and concussions. We need to take those very seriously. Athletes are responsible for the care and safekeeping of their equipment, can be charged for damages. Equipment that is issued by the school is used only for participation in that particular sport, and they will not be able to participate in the next sport or receive awards until their equipment is turned in or fines are paid. Dual sports. If you want to take part in two sports, there's a form that you have to fill out. You have to get permission from both coaches and the AD. You must declare your first and second priority sport and participate in at least one conference competition to be eligible for conference tournament. And athletes must coordinate a schedule of practices and events with both coaches. You want to change sports. You may not quit one sport or activity and begin another during the same season without the consent of both head coaches or advisors involved in the change and permission from the AD, advisor, and principal. Any disciplinary actions that are in place will remain in place in the new activity. Postseason awards will be given to athletes, but may be withheld if the athlete has been expelled from athletic participation due to training rule violations. Any student having a code violation will forfeit the privilege of having their names submitted for any special awards, such as conference, state, or etc., or honors during the season in which code violations were committed and or served. There are fees for sports, $15 per middle school sport with a limit of $30 a year, $30 per high school sport with a limit of $75 per year, and a maximum of $150 per family. The school district encourages families to apply for the National School Meal Program. Application forms are available in the school offices or online. If you do apply, do not pay any fees at this time. If your family is eligible, the athletic fees will be waived. As I mentioned earlier, there are many unknowns due to COVID at this time. All of these procedures and assumptions are subject to change based on current COVID pandemic conditions, legal counsel, Waupaca County DHS, insurance liability carrier, and Board of Education approval. As the WIAA makes decisions that will affect us, we will do our best to inform everyone of what these changes are. Thank you for attending our meeting and for your positive support of our coaches and student athletes throughout the year. We're all in this together. We want to do what is best for them. If you have any questions, you can contact me, you can email me, you can give me a call. My cell phone number is out there. I'm going to take questions in just a little bit. I want you to know that you can choose either of these options. And this counts as proof that you attended the meeting or you watched the recorded video. So you can click on the link here. You can also do the code with your phone or however you want to do that. And then there are 5 questions that you need to answer. All right. What are your questions?
Maybe one of the things, Ms. Millard, and I know Mr. Bortle, I saw that he's on, but I'm not sure if he's active. He's not our athletic, but good, Jeff. But he is our CWC commissioner for WIAA, and he is closer to the head of the people that make some of these decisions than we are. And I know he's been in the loop quite a bit about some things that are kind of on the side burner right now that are possibilities. Mr. Bortle, is it right if I call on you to talk to the parents just briefly as to what are some of the things that are being proposed, namely the CISA 3 plan and anything else that you disseminate from the WIAA for us?
The Board of Control, the WIAA Board of Control has a meeting. It actually got pushed back to Thursday or Friday this week. They're hoping to have a decision made by Friday. of either A, leaving the fall sports season where it is and kind of running everything status quo. B, the CISA 3 model would push, would have no fall sports during the fall season. Winter sports would start after winter break. Practice would start, I believe, December 15th was the date. Winter season would be mainly the games would be January, February. And then the fall season would then start in March and go March, April, May. And then the spring sports would actually start then and go June and July. If you talk to the WA now, their current plan is to do as scheduled, but that could change, and that was as of about 40 minutes ago. There's other things that obviously they can look into, such as just playing a conference schedule, things like that. Everything's kind of up in the air, obviously, with the virus numbers that are out there. Is that what you're looking for?
Yes, thank you. As I said, there's a lot of things that are right on the boilerplate right now. There were some decisions, and there's some pressures coming from outside forces that they're trying to make decisions, but we are at the mercy of some of those thinkers. So thank you, Mr. Bortle.
For those of you looking at the chat, I just posted the link in the chat so you can click on it right there to take the survey and get that turned in. Soshi Grimm, thank you for that suggestion. Are there any other questions?
I think there was a question I'd seen earlier, not on the chat, but from a parent perspective. What do we have to do with physical cards this year? Is it alternate year, or are they bypassing physicals for this year? What can you tell me, Ms. Millard?
They're not bypassing physicals. You still have to get a physical if it is your year to get one. You have a little bit of extra time to get it if you're having a difficult time getting into your doctor to see your doctor for the physical. It's not being waived, though. You still have to get a physical. And if you're not sure, if your parents are not sure of when your last physical was, you can contact your physician. You can find out from your physician. I do believe also that Mrs. Bessett said that was posted online. There was a link where you could check that, and I'll double check on that. I don't know, is Jenny Bessett still with us? Or did she? I know she was here.
Mrs. Millard, I believe it's on Skyward, and you
Okay.
click on health, and it's underneath the health tab on Skyward. It'll tell you when you had your last physical.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. I suppose you've had some football players asking that already.
Correct.
Okay. Great. Anything else? Any other questions? Mr. Wolfgram, can you think of anything from other years?
No, I'm trying to reflect. Obviously, we're trying to move forward, students and parents, as best we can with that sense of normalcy. As far as we're still planning to move forward and have contact with kids, and a lot is going to be dependent upon where we are in Wapaka County. Right now, we're still listed in the high risk category, so that changes the parameters and it changes what coaches can do at practices. So fingers crossed. Let's hope that our continued efforts to mitigate and tamp down the virus will continue to work, and we'll see a decline. That isn't the case right now. We're seeing a little bit of an uptick in Wapaka County. I think it's averaging close to 7 cases a day now. So my fingers are crossed, but there are no promises. So the one thing we can't control is how fast some of these things are spreading. We can do our best with our masks and doing the social distancing, which we still encourage people to do. But we're going to try to move forward and give a sports season, whatever that may look like. It might be abbreviated. It might be just conference games. If they go with the 3 model, things will be displaced a little bit. But we know that Manawa sports is important for the entire education for our kids, and it's an important reason why kids come to school. So we're going to do our best, and we ask the same of you.
Thank you. All right. If there are no other questions at this time, we'll go ahead and end the meeting. As always, if you have questions, please feel free to email myself or Mr. Wolfgram or Mr. Bortle, and we'll get you your answers. All right. Thank you all for attending.